Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Johnson edition and we turned out a poem 775, If Blame Be My Side, Forfeit Me. Now, let's go ahead and just say out loud that one of the things in the Johnson edition that makes this poem so significant is that it is numbered 775 and the volume will end with 1,775 poems. And I think we said this when we were doing together our study of 772, that final line, all is the price of all, that when you hit 775 in the Johnson edition, you can pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself, and then say, I still have 1,000 poems left to exhaust. We're not exhausting any of these poems, are we? We're rather just kind of scratching at the epidermal or the surface level of these poems. This is going to be another fascinating poem that involves a dialogue, a discussion, even some have called it an argument or a prayer, only it's not clear who Emily is speaking to as she asks or thinks about, if blame be my side, forfeit me. The word forfeit ends up 3 times in this poem, to give up or forfeit. Is she speaking to Jesus Christ? Is she speaking to Sue? Is she speaking to someone else? It is another, what we have called, longing poem. And our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments, as well as the preceding 774 poems. We just finished with 774. It is a lonesome glee. Now, this longing that Emily seems to be playing around with is going to be for us, I think, one of the arguments of our whole time studying. What is the blame that Emily is suggesting might be on her side? Is it her skepticism? Some have certainly read it this way, that Emily, raised within her conservative orthodoxy or evangelical Puritanism or orthodoxy, has struggled with it and maybe decided to depart from it. And yet here, she is going to capitalize the word believe. If blame be my side, forfeit me. But do me not to forfeit thee. To forfeit thee, the very name is sentence from belief and home. Now we've commented on the fact that she capitalizes home here. We've commented on the fact that home is referenced in 77 of her poems. Of course, think about the power of home to a poet artist who will spend her entire adult life predominantly in her home. Yes? Living predominantly and only in her home. We will never call Emily a recluse, but many have. She certainly is cloistered. She certainly withdraws. And in that, can we even say it at times, it feels almost like a nunnery type of choice that she's making. She here will argue, whatever happens, don't forfeit me. Don't leave me. Again, the longing of this poem is palpable. It begins with the word if. So it isn't clear that Emily is willing to admit that there is blame to be shared or spread on her. But she says, if blame be my side, dash, forfeit me, notice capitalized, dash, but do me not to forfeit thee, notice thee, capitalized, dash. And then it's almost as if she comes back to repeat herself, to forfeit thee. And then she'll say it. The very name is sentence. By the way, a variant was exile, which is, I think, fascinating. Sentence from belief, forfeit, and sentence, of course, these legal terms, raised in a house of lawyers, her father and her brother, right? And the dash, and home, capitalized, as we said, the poem ending then with the dash. Belief is, I think, the key word of this poem. And the scholar Priest has argued, for example, that this is a poem where Emily is having a dialogue with Christ, with Jesus, and saying, if I'm at fault, then forfeit me, but I will never be able to stop having faith in you. Others have said, there's something else going on here. Emily isn't speaking to divinity. Emily is speaking to a pal. A pal maybe in a fight with her or whatever. In other words, if you forfeit me because I'm at blame, I understand that, but I will never forfeit or give up you, because that very notion is sentence, or the variant exile, And it's as if I don't have a place to go. I don't have a home without that. At 2A, I think our message here is that the artistic life is almost impossible without some sense of home or without some sense of belief. You got to believe in something. It seems to me that Emily is also arguing that she is not to blame. That's the reason the first word of the poem is if, and then in fact, she deserves to be considered and not forfeited. At 2B, well, obviously the question of the thee, right? The antecedent to the pronoun thee. Like, who is she talking to? And that's the key. She is talking to somebody, which is, again, one more reason we called our series Chats with Emily. At 3A, there's so many different places we could go, but think about the power of the prophetic voice in the King James Bible that Emily loves so much. I mean, just go back and read the Jeremiah 15 or the Jeremiah 20 longing prayers, or the Isaiah prayers of 51 and 60. They're compelling prayers. Why? Because they have this as well, this strong sense of longing. It's very possible that Emily is challenging something similar. Finally, at 3B, to own a poem like this, when was a time that you hoped to not be forfeited, or to be forgotten, or to be let go? Well, here we go, guys. We are now 1,000 poems away. Hope you can hang with us. Thank you.